I've seen plenty of instances over the years where Raw can be incredibly fun and incredibly entertaining and just good television, period. Not even just wrestling television, but just good television, period. But the show is not very productive. It doesn't really accomplish a lot. It doesn't do a whole lot to set the table going forward. It doesn't advance much of anything at all. And then on the flip side of that, you get this week's Raw, where I think it was productive for the WWE, especially when it comes to building up Seth Rollins into a legitimate, viable threat in that triple threat title match at the Royal Rumble, building to that big triple threat title match at the Rumble itself. But it wasn't a good show. This is the second Raw of 2015. This show sucked Cho big time this week too, just like last week's Blue Chunks. But of course, it just wouldn't be Raw without some stupidity from John Cena. And thankfully, at least, we got it out of the way at the beginning of the show. I thought Cena was much better in his promo work at the end of the night in the contract signing than he was here in the opening segment. This was the stupid John Cena. This is the crappy, hard-to-get-behind John Cena. His whole shtick, his whole approach, his whole angle during this opening promo was just off the mark. And I laughed my ass off when he made that threat that he's going to go on to the Royal Rumble, win the title in that triple threat, and then he's going to take the title and go home. Ding dong, dumb dick, that's what Brock Lesnar did. How is that any type of fucking threat? How is that any type of mindfuck to the Authority when they seem to be perfectly fine with Brock Lesnar doing it? This is the stupidity of the John Cena character. Who writes this shit? Who decides that this is the approach that this asshat needs to take? It's just stupid. And what gets even more ridiculous is when you have the Authority come out and they put him in a match with Rollins, lumberjack style, to sit there and say if he wins, he gets Rowan, Ryback, and Ziggler their jobs back. Why not just sit there and say, if you feel so guilty about this, and you feel so bad about this, and you're so remorseful about this, and you so seriously want these guys to get their jobs back, it's very simple. We'll put it on paper right now. You give up your title shot at the Royal Rumble, and those guys are back like that. Put your money where your mouth is, John. But of course we couldn't do that because that would actually be attempting to show some weakness in John Cena. That would be attempting to actually give some layers and depth to the John Cena character. That would of course be an attempt to actually do something different with this asshat. This would actually be an attempt to sit there and do something that could actually have you wondering throughout the night what the hell is going on and have a chance to tell a real story throughout an episode of Raw. Instead, no, we're not going to fucking do that. We'll just give him this match against Rollins that we know that Rollins isn't going to win in a clean fashion. It's just more of the same old bullshit. If you want those guys' jobs back so bad, then do something to show it. And you would think if you're the Authority and you really want to mindfuck this guy and you really want to get your way because you don't want Cena to have the title, which I thought was the whole motivation behind sending Brock Lesnar in to begin with at SummerSlam. Wouldn't you want to take away that title opportunity? And wouldn't this be the perfect avenue and opportunity to do such? It's so simple, it's stupid. One of the funniest things to me that happened on this show was when Roman Reigns was coming out to confront Big Show, and Big Show's like, I don't want to hear what this guy's got to say. Let me get the fuck up the ramp and hightail it out of here. Who can fucking blame the Big Show? Even this heat seeker of suck in 2015, Big Show doesn't want to hear what the fuck Roman Reigns is about to say, and who can blame him? What was it this week? It was Jack and the Magic Beans and the fucking Beanstalk, and fee fi fo fum. How incredibly lame, stupid, and dumb, Vince! What's next? He's going to be sitting there and talking about nursery rhymes. He's going to be talking about Hansel and Gretel. He's going to be talking about Goldilocks and the three fucking bears, the three little pigs, or any other type of ridiculous child story. I talked about this earlier this week, about how I really wonder if Vince McMahon just hates Roman Reigns. And when you see bullshit like this, you see that that might very well be the case. And that Vince just hates what he does for a living now, but he's too stubborn and too old and too bitter to fucking admit it. I'm surprised that Roman Reigns isn't getting more redeeming qualities out of this and getting more fans behind it because they see the stupidity that he's being handed and being dealt. I would think there would be more reasons to get behind this guy at this point because even if he's the big muscle guy like so many of you portray him to be and you think he lacks charisma and he lacks mic skills, and maybe he does, he's getting put in the same situations as just about everybody fucking else on that roster. Why do you hate this guy? He fits in with the rest of the crew, frankly. How can anybody fucking get over in today's environment with Vince writing bullshit like this? And I can imagine Kevin Dunn reaching into his bag of carrots and like, Jack and the Magic Beanstalk. Now that's sports entertainment, Vince. That's outstanding. And Vince is like, you're right! Next week, he's gonna talk about the three little pigs. He's gonna hop, and he's gonna puff, and he's gonna blow the Big Show's house down. I think the commentary on Raw is so bad now that it's gotten to the point where every week I'm going to have to come up with a segment and I'll figure it out as I go along just to recognize the stupidity and the audacity of bad that is this WWE commentary team. This week's Gem of Gems, and a show fucking full of them, was during the Naomi and Alicia Fox match where the commentators are referencing that the WWE was founded and based off of free speech. Would that include the free speech that leads to kicking people out of the arenas if you don't like what they have to say? Would that be the free speech where you take people's signs away? Would that be the free speech where you take people and you force them to change their shirts if they're wearing something you don't agree with, including the CM Punk merchandise that you still fucking sell? The WWE's built on free speech. My fucking ass. The show was productive from a Dean Ambrose standpoint as well, just in the sense that they really don't have a lot for him to do at the moment until you get to the Royal Rumble. So you got to figure out a way to feature him on TV and not do something incredibly repetitive with him. Look, I didn't think the whole psychiatric evaluation shit was the best or most well done. I mean, it had its moments. At least it was something that got Ambrose a little bit on TV throughout different segments of the night, and that's fine. I thought it was interesting that they sent him out at Rusev. You know, hey, there you go. But it was productive at least. It allows Ambrose to be featured, but not be over-featured, but featured in a way where he still stays in front of you and he still feels like a big deal. So, you know, I thought WWE did a good job with that. Another productive thing on the show this week was the utilization of Daniel Bryan. They replanted that seed and reminded you of how deep the hatred and rivalry goes between Daniel Bryan and the Authority, potentially setting up things for later. And I'm glad they chose Stephanie for this spot instead of Triple H, because while Triple H works, I think Stephanie McMahon works even better as that snobby bitch towards Daniel Bryan. The dynamics between the two of them work better, and I think they play better off of each other than Daniel Bryan and Triple H do. And you're also not only, you know, getting Daniel Bryan on TV, which was something that was lacking last week, you're replanting the seeds of a rivalry with the Authority, something that wasn't really done last week. You're also utilizing Daniel Bryan's appearance to promote SmackDown, changing to its new night on Thursdays going forward, and that it was kicking off this week on Thursdays. A productive segment. Not the most entertaining thing Daniel Bryan's ever done, for sure, but productive on several different levels. I could deal with it not always being the greatest as long as it's productive. And this definitely was a productive, got a lot of bang for their buck segment for the WWE. I will say one thing that I do like about how the Ascension is being featured right now on television is that they're being served up the no-name jobbers and getting over on them in very short order. If nobody else is really doing that on the roster and the Ascension are the only guys doing that, it's a way for them to stand out. Now, with that said, if the WWE is doing this because Vince and Kevin Dunn in particular don't think that these guys can go longer and do more in a match, then they're just stupid. Which, of course, with so many other things that they've been doing with the Ascension, you would indeed be inclined to believe that they are stupid. If you're going to keep referencing Demolition and Road Warriors, you really need to do something with that, up to and including having the Ascension confront either Demolition and or Road Warrior Animal at some point in time, even if that culminates in a match. Otherwise, it really doesn't serve any purpose. Maybe you need to move on to other tag teams, or if you're going to just sit there and keep harping on it because these guys have face paint, these guys have face paint, that's not enough. That's not enough for it to automatically equate, not enough to get these guys over. And again, instead of bringing these guys in as just big, badass dudes and really establishing them well, establishing them nicely to the point where you've got an Ascension versus Usos tag title match at WrestleMania 31 that a lot of people want to see and has a lot of interest, now you're just really turning people off of the Ascension, and when you do put the straps on them, which you know you're going to, they're going to have a mediocre-ass tag title run. That's a shame. Another thing the WWE used to their advantage and were very productive at doing was leaking news earlier in the day that the Macho Man was going to be announced on this week's show as the first inductee, as the headliner of the 2015 WWE Hall of Fame class. And there's no doubt when you look at the viewership for this week's show, it was up. It was a very productive thing for them to do. It was kind of sleazy to do, but what have you. And I've already done a video this week about my thoughts on Macho Madness finally coming back home to the WWE and being a part of the 2015 WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. With that said, you know, all of this, you know, pumping us up with all these good and warm, wonderful feelings about the Macho Man doesn't change the fact that your shit sucks. And while it's nice to sit there and see different people doing impressions, including Roman Reigns doing a pretty good one, mind you. Ooh, yeah, dig it, freak out. You know, it still doesn't change the fact of all those years that you ignored him, all those years that you blackballed him, all those years that you didn't mention him, you didn't talk about him, and you didn't treat him as one of the biggest legends in the history of your company, which he clearly was, is, and always will be. And I will never forgive the WWE for that. That's always bothered me tremendously, and I know I'm not alone in that. But even with that said, maybe a lot of other people weren't as harsh on this week's show because they had some of the positive vibes and good feelings when thinking about the Macho Man, and that's all fine and good. And to a degree, it most certainly didn't hurt in my perspective because I got kind of caught up in it too. But that still doesn't change the fact, WWE, that your shit sucked by and large this week again. As I said, the biggest single reason I thought this show was productive for the WWE was that they really did a good job with Seth Rollins on this show. He was featured throughout the night, and he was featured in a way that was designed to make him a little more serious, a little more credible, and elevate him from just being a member of the Authority and the Money in the Bank winner to being a legitimate, he deserves this spot, main event guy facing off against two of the top guys in Cena and Lesnar for the belt in a triple threat at the Royal Rumble. You know, what really did it for me was the stare down between Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar. And while on the one hand it's kind of wishy-washy because you have Rollins act like a coward in so many other ways and so many other times, here he is standing face-to-face with Brock Lesnar, and he's not backing down. He's not taking any of his shit, and he's letting him know that he's there to be taken very seriously. And even when we get to the contract signing ceremony, yeah, typical contract signing shit, not all that good. But I actually like the dynamics of it. I thought Brock was very good in the way that Brock needed to be. Ironically enough, sometimes Cena can pull a good one out of his ass, and he most certainly did here. Short, sweet, to the point, at the end of it, really good. And then Seth Rollins here was really good, and I like how everybody kind of got in their own shit, but at the end it was Seth Rollins standing tall. It was Seth Rollins reigning supreme, and you even had the Authority kind of out of the way, planting the seed that maybe he doesn't even need the Authority, and that this is the guy to be taken seriously, and this guy could potentially win the title at the Royal Rumble, and that's a very distinct possibility. And if that was the mindset the WWE had this week for the show, and this was the goal that the WWE had for the show this week, was to really build up Seth Rollins nicely, frankly, I think they did an outstanding job, and they deserve credit for that. And for that standpoint alone, it was a really productive show. You built up one of the guys that you needed to build up the most heading into one of your most important shows of the year. Therefore, as a result, building up that one of your biggest shows of the year, arguably your second most important show of the year, because it ultimately begins the road to your most important show of the year, the WWE did a good job. It still doesn't change the fact that this show largely sucked. The writing was terrible. A lot of it felt repetitive. A lot of nonsensical crap. Stupid shit from Cena. Long authority promo segments. Just, it's not good television. Something needs to shake up and something needs to change, because you can be productive and be entertaining. And I would like to see the WWE at some point in time be able to pull that out of their ass in the weeks to come, instead of giving us one or the other, or in many cases, they give us neither.